Okay, so the first step was coming up with a design and ordering the parts. So I ordered them in FedEx. They got here today, and so I'll be taking this in, opening it up, and I'm washing my hands real good. Okay, I must say right from the outset that the World Health Organization says that this won't work, that the COVID-19 is resistant to ultraviolet radiation, and they also say it's resistant to heat. Well, I've been baking my mail, and that's not always the best thing for some of the plastic covers. So I'm going to try this, and if it doesn't work for COVID-19, maybe it'll work for the common cold, sinus infections, and other things I've caught over the years. So we're going to try this anyway. I drew up a design. I'm going to run it from a 9-volt battery. So far I haven't located one of those nifty 9-volt battery clips. So I may end up just running it with alligator clips and wires at first. Calculations came up with, for the LEDs I bought, came up with requiring 200 ohms, and oops, I see I printed this out with 900 ohms. The math is shown below. I'm going to run each one individually because if I've calculated wrong, then by golly, I don't want to blow up more than one. So here is LED forward current in amps, which you can find in the data sheet. These had 20 milliamps or 0.02 amps. I also found in the data sheet the LED forward voltage, which is 5 volts for these. And the formula you use is the source voltage minus the forward voltage, and divide that by the milliamps. So 9 minus 5 is 4. So we're going to have 4 volts on the actual LEDs themselves. 4 divided by 0.02 is 200. So I needed to order 200 ohm resistors. These are the light emitting diodes. So in spite of the claims that they don't do any good, DigiKey is charging about 50 bucks a piece. So I would have liked to have ordered more, but this is all I felt I could afford. Now, right here, that's the actual light emitting diode in the middle. These are good in that they come on this, mounted on this package with contacts on there that you can actually solder to. Most of the, I never found any that weren't surface mount. So I do not have, and most people don't have, the necessary equipment to actually surface mount, solder these onto some sort of a board. Also on here, right at the top, is marked 275, that little red mark on there. That indicates the wavelength of the light, and 275 is right in the range you need it to be for disinfectant. I also ordered resistors. I ordered more resistors than I did LEDs. Why? Well, they were as cheap as the LEDs were expensive. They're just a couple of cents a piece. And so I got a price break for ordering more, even though at this time I have no idea what I'll use them for unless I save up some more money and buy some more LEDs. Okay, so I've got the soldering iron warmed up. I guess I'm ready to actually do some work on this thing. So, a little worried. These come in static packages, and that could be a bit of a worry. I don't have full static protection gear here, so I guess it's just a chance I'm going to take. So I'm going to clip off one of these 200 ohm resistors. And I'm going to separate the diodes, one of the diodes off there. Now the part marked plus on here, I didn't mention before, is the anode. So that's where the positive voltage is going to connect. And I'm going to connect that through a resistor to limit current. And the minus is the cathode, which is going to connect to the minus end of the battery. I don't need necessarily all that lead length on the resistor. Probably be easier to construct later if I had less of it. So I'm going to cut this off short. And I'm going to see about soldering this on. Get a little bead of solder on there. I'm doing this without a clamp, so perhaps I should change my mode of operation. Hemostats are a wonderful thing to have in electronics, so I'm going to actually clamp that on there with the hemostats. Which might be easier said than done. Alright, so I had to dig out my quad hands to get this positioned where I wanted it and actually get it to stick there. So we're going to solder this first resistor on. Shouldn't take much. In the process of looking for these quad hands, I did find myself a battery connector. Now I have a speech compressor, I should say, that no longer has a power supply in it. Okay, here goes the negative side. By the way, these two terminals here, the ones marked plus and minus, both minuses are connected together, and so are both pluses. So that gives you various options to connect wires on here. So now we're going to be ready to test this thing really soon. Okay, so I've got two resistors on here. I started it out. It does make light. You got to be very careful and not look at the thing, because although they're not claiming it kills COVID-19, universally accepted is that it kills your eyes. So I kind of glanced at it askance, and I tested the voltage drop on it, and it was higher than I calculated it should be. So what I did here is I doubled up on the resistance, and the light still comes on, and I checked the voltage, and the voltage, I can do all this without blinding myself, would be good. A good thing not to blind myself. And these quad helping hands are only so much help. So I don't know if you can see the meter, but we got a pretty constant 6 volts and about 7 there. And that 6 volts is constant even when I have it hooked up directly. So I think that their 5 volt spec has a tolerance, and it's probably 6. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this again, and I'm going to do the other two. Okay, so I put some wire extensions on. I've got all three of the resistors soldered on. I've got black wires on the other end, so I'm putting some long red wires on. It's going to go something like this, and I'll repeat that 2 more times. So it's a good idea to cover up bare wires. It reduces the possibility of shorts and other type of damage. So I've got all these soldered on there, and so the next thing we'll do, put some heat shrink on there, shrink it up. Okay, so I've got my LED assemblies laid out. They're on the box I'm going to use. So it's not going to be very precise, but I'll mark some holes to drill in those three, roughly those 3 spots, and I'll have the wires come outside the box and hook up to the power supply, and I will put the LEDs inside. Okay, so now it's marked. So now I'll drill some holes for the wires. Okay, so there's the bottom of the lid with the holes drilled and my wiring taped in. And there's the top, the battery holder. Not terribly fancy, no switch or anything. And in the darkness, you can see the faint glow of the light that is, most of that is out of our ability to sense it.